Hi, and welcome to another episode of Al Nafs podcast with me, Naba Al Madani.
And me, Rida Alwan. Today we are very fortunate to have Mohammad Taher. Mohammad Taher is also known as the airport guy. Graduated with an engineering degree and then moved into aviation, airports, and then now a content creator and helping the youth find work in aviation. Welcome.
Mohammed,
Thank you.
welcome.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate having me.
Thank you for coming.
Thank you for joining us.
pleasure.
So
pleasure.
obviously there's a lot to get through with you,
Mm.
mashallah. In your lifetime, you've gone through a lot. But let's start right from the beginning. Let's go. Where were you born? How did school go? And we'll take it from there, inshallah.
Sure, yeah. So born and raised in the UK, born and raised in northwest London, North Wheezy all the way. That's all I've ever known to be home. So spent majority of my childhood sort of in I went to initially a public school, then a private school at Khoury, so Khoury Islamic School, and then skipped along to a Catholic school, like college, so St. Dominic's after that. I guess I was always a bit shy as a kid, a bit insecure, a bit overweight. But then I guess when that really started to change was, or like my third year of university is where I guess everything began to change in my life, and I'm become a little bit closer to the person I am today, and starts I guess that move that needle a little bit more in terms of my development as a human being and actually changing as a human, becoming who I am today. So in a nutshell, that's a quick.
So that's where you were born, where
Yeah,
you were raised. But originally you're from...
I'm Iraqi originally, yeah. So
Okay.
Iraqi, both parents are Iraqi from
Mhm.
Baghdad.
And they came here
1990s,
in the 90s.
and they landed at Heathrow Airport in the 90s. So full circle moment when I ended up looking after the same runways that they actually landed on. And I remember I used to sort of stand there in the middle of a night shift thinking, like, my parents actually landed on this exact runway and started a whole new life in the UK, and now I'm here looking after the same runway.
And so how was that for you? How was that journey growing up here in the UK?
I can't complain. Yeah,
Mhm.
pretty good. I think in terms of how was the journey, it's the only thing you ever know, and it's hard to compare sometimes, like where you are, when it's the only thing you know. It's the only thing you know. So
Fair enough. Okay,
Yeah.
let me change the question.
go on.
Changing from a Muslim school to a Catholic college.
Yeah,
That must have been an experience.
that was a massive culture shock. One thing you realize when you do that is that you're living in a bubble. So my bubble was home, school, and you probably experienced the same thing because we went to the same school.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if
No.
you were when. What was your school journey like? Just out of curiosity.
It's always been either Church of England or
Okay.
just normal mainstream.
Interesting. So compared to like when you go to like an Islamic school, especially like one like Khoury, is that it's kind of a bit of a bubble, right? You go to school, everyone's doing salawat, and people are like they're just the environment. You have a time slotted for salah. Like everything is like designed for you so that you can like live a sort of Islamic life.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden you get ripped out of that and you get thrown in the deep end. And all of a sudden it's like, first of all, it's like now it's a mixed environment, whereas previously it wasn't. Now it's also an environment where no one's reminding you to go and pray and to go and do this and to go and do that. You're kind of in your own, you're in the deep end. But I think that's where I grew the most, is that when you're too, I don't want to say the word sheltered. I think that's not the right word in this context. But when you're in that bubble, it's hard to become independent. It's hard to sort of understand why you're doing these things. It's hard to understand, actually, no, this is what I want to do, and make it a choice. It's kind of like everyone's doing it, so you do it along with them. But the moment you leave that and you go to a place where no one's doing that, all of a sudden you realize, oh, so I'm actually different. I'm actually different to everyone else. My values are different to everybody else. Like my morals are different to everybody else. You see people doing things and you can start to question, like, okay, do I do that? Do I not? Why do I not do that? And you start to understand why you or don't do certain things. But then that makes you actually understand yourself so much more, rather than just everyone's doing it. So you kind of just...
Did you feel that was a bit of peer pressure to try and fit in or anything like that?
Is this when I was in
College? Yeah.
I've never actually spoken about my time in college. 100% though, yeah. So my college actually was really interesting. Years after I left college, one of my friends reached out to me who used to be in the same friendship group that I was in. So I was in a friendship group where for context, the last day of college, I've never spoken to anybody from that group pretty much since.
Wow.
Like,
Okay.
like we were only friends because we were in the same college. There was, I
Mm.
didn't think there was a much deeper than that. And at the time, like, I thought it was just me because I thought everybody else was like really close friends, and I was kind of like the outsider who's just trying to find the friendship group that I really wasn't fitting into. Like, they were very different to me. But when I realized afterwards is that one of those guys reached out to me through Instagram, and we started talking, and he was like, I thought he was one of the cool kids. I thought he was one of those that was like, you know, everyone loved him and he loved
In crowd.
everyone, and yeah, he was in. And it was that he told me, bro, like that was the most toxic environment ever. And I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, yeah, no one was showing up as their true authentic self. Everyone was just trying to be that. And I'm like, but like, I thought that was you. Like, I thought you were that guy. And I was like the outsider, insecure, trying to break in. And he was like, no, man, the whole thing was like, wasn't healthy. I made me really think. I was like, wow, like here I was thinking I was the only one. But I just realized that nobody was brave enough to just take off the mask and be like, I don't want to do
This is
this
me.
anymore. Yeah.
Mhm.
And it wasn't until we got older that we took off the mask, and then we saw each other later on. And it's like, oh, so you're not what I thought you were. And you're not what I was presenting to be either.
Mm.
So you realize everyone was just wearing a mask and everyone was trying to be cool with each other. Whereas the reality was, yeah, if we had just taken it all off, we would have actually discovered, okay, is this where I want to be? Is this the friendship group for me, or is there a better friendship group for me?
Really interesting.
Interesting.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Also, it's because you guys were teenagers, right? And so with
Yeah.
everything that you guys are dealing with as a teenager, it's hard to find yourself, I think, or to be your authentic self. Because there is all this, like you said, trying to fit in,
Mm.
peer pressure. And so I think the best thing to do when you're a teenager is to wear a mask,
I mean,
right?
yeah, but the thing is, for me, it's like when I went into that crowd, because my first experience of coming out of a non-Islamic school or college, because I went to Islamic college as well,
Mm.
it was university, and it was like, okay, do I need to fit in? And it was like, okay, what personality do I need to put on? It's like, which hat do I need to put on? Because we're always wearing different hats.
That's so
Mm.
true.
You know, because we're at home, we're like this. At work, we're like this. Do I need to? Sometimes you need to be a strong person. You need to be that roadman so that you get away from conflict and issues. Because you just need, you need to put on, that shield that you need to protect yourself. So it's about what am I putting on for this? And it's like at university for me, it was like, okay, where am I going with this? What image are people perceiving me as, or what do I want people to perceive me as? And it's like, okay, let me fit in.
Mm.
But this podcast is about you, Mohammed. So
No, but what you take from that is we all lived the same experience. Like
Absolutely.
everyone had a process of wearing a mask
yeah,
Mhm.
and sort of hiding behind this facade that wasn't true.
Absolutely.
And then at some stage in life, some earlier than others, you realize like that's not serving you.
yeah, switch it off.
Mm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you begin to take that mask off. But for me, a most interesting part of that process is the reaction of the people around you who think they know you, and they tell you to get back in your lane.
Yeah,
Right?
yeah, no,
They're like, who do you think you are? Get back in
Mm.
your lane, mate. Like you're not that. And only when you do it for long enough, you redefine what your lane is. And then when it starts to work out, then they go, oh my God, like, that's, I'm so happy for you. It's all great. But in the beginning, they were kind of side-eyeing you going, are you sure, mate? That's not you. And then over time, that starts to happen. Like for me with my social media journey, for example, like there were some people who were looking at me like, what are you doing? But now they go, oh my God, like, it's all working out for you. But that's just, I think, a natural journey where people think they know who you are, but they just know the mask.
So are you talking about people that are close to you?
Usually it's the closest people, but I think it's not directly proportional to how close they are. I think it's about intention and about like how much they actually love you, or if they're just there if they're there for the mask and they want that mask version of you, then they're gonna start asking questions. But if they're there for whoever you want to be, because they're here for you as a person, then whatever mask comes on or off doesn't matter to them.
But sometimes when you wear a mask for a long time and people think this is who you are, it's very difficult to see your true self or for them to see your true self because it's unfamiliar. People don't like that. They don't like the unfamiliar. They
true.
want Mohammed, the one they always see, the one they always hear from, the one that behaves in a certain manner. the minute Mohammed becomes his authentic self, who is this guy? They don't get it. And then most people have no awareness anyway of the change people go through or the growth people go through. And so that's where I think people don't accept you. That's when people start thinking, who is this guy? Like, I've known Mohammed to be so-and-so for so long, and now he's acting all different.
You must experience this a lot, Naba, with people when they come to counselling and then they actually find themselves.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. And you know what we always tell them is that through that journey of self-awareness, of your growth, you will lose some, you know.
Some.
Well, yeah.
So, college is done.
Yeah. College was over. The mask came off.
The mask came off.
Uni later on, yeah.
Uni. Which uni?
Bruno.
Well done.
I was there yesterday giving a talk.
I saw that.
Yeah, it was fun.
Yeah.
It's good to be back. It's like nostalgia on the next level. We're just walking through the same buildings. I went to the same room I used to always go to pray, like do a lot in the toilet and then go and pray in the same room. And it was just like the nostalgia. But I had to like recheck the qibla just so I don't get it wrong. I was hoping my gut instinct would just kick in and I'd know it, but I was like, I'm not risking it. I'm gonna really check this before I pray.
So how was uni? How was that fitting in and experience there work for you?
So uni, I guess it came in stages, and like there was one tipping point for me for uni. The first 2 years was a chapter. Then I went to work at Lufthansa for a year, so I went on a placement year. And then
sandwich course, like?
Yeah, like a sandwich course, exactly. So a year out where I went. And in that year out, I started to play American football.
Interesting.
And funnily enough, it's not necessarily the American football that changed me, but it's a certain few individuals who I met while I was playing American football that just introduced me to a whole new way of thinking about life. I just completely opened up my mind as to like how a human can think. Like I had never thought like that before.
Interesting.
And they were saying things and like introducing me to ways of thinking that I was just so unfamiliar with.
Can you remember one or two
blowing
things?
my mind. It was the most basic things. Things like how what you say, your words, the words that you say will literally begin to like create energy and manifest themselves back into your life. Like the power of the words that you say and how those words create ripple effects and the butterfly effects of how their sort of law of attraction can genuinely begin to move the needle on things in your life. And I'm sat there and I'm going, what's this guy talking about? This is crazy. Like, is this real? Like, what is this that he's talking about? Like, you can change your life with energy and the universe has all these different like dimensions and layers. And he was talking about all the stuff he came at it from a very Buddhist sort of perspective, very sort of energy, very, what's the word? Like non-traditional faith perspective, a very secular perspective. That's the word I'm looking for.
Okay.
Yet it felt very familiar. Like it felt familiar, but it was just being spoken in a very different way that I've never heard it being said like that before. And I remember I was so intrigued by like what he was saying. I'm like, bro, where did you learn this? Like, where did you get to, how did you learn this stuff? And he pointed me towards a book. And
The Secret?
No, not The Secret.
Have you read The Secret?
I haven't, but I've heard all about it.
Okay.
I mean, I think I understand the concept of The Secret,
Okay.
but I don't want to assume. I'm yet to read that book, but I think it should be on my
If it
agenda.
helps, as a Netflix movie.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Shortcuts. Yeah. But it was the book was called The User Guide to Balance, and it was mind, body, soul, and it was talking about sort of the mind, the body, and the soul. I only ever read the mind chapter. I never got to body and soul because I went off on the biggest tangent of my life. Like I read the chapter about the mind and about neuroplasticity and about habits and about how they're formed and about how you can like rewire your brain and things like that. And I was just like, this is crazy. Like you're telling me I can rewrite my whole life just by the way I think. And it's like, yeah, so okay, I need to learn more about this. And I just went on a massive tangent. And that journey throughout that year when I was on placement completely like overhauled me, like as a human being. Like I transformed. I came in one way and I came out looking completely different. And then I went on to my third year, and that's when
you built up the habit of fitness and health and all of those things, I'm guessing, because you said you changed in your third year.
Yeah, everything changed. Like I had lost loads of weight. Like I felt good. My brain was in the right place. Like everything was, like it was probably like the most peaceful, happy, content period, one of the most happy, peaceful, content periods of my life. Like there was a good 6 to 7 months straight where you could not phase me. No matter what you do, I was unfazable. Like I was just nothing could get to me. And that lasted for a good 7 months. Slowly, obviously, life comes in peaks and troughs, right? So you're going to go good days, you're going to have the bad days. But that period of my life, I think the thing that really hit home the most was every day I was finding like just things that I found beautiful that I'd like appreciate. Like I'd sit down and just watch the clouds. And I'd just see them. It's amazing. Look at the clouds. It's just beautiful. And I'd like read a quote and I'd deep it. And I'd be like, wow.
And you were into your poetry as well, weren't you?
Yeah, I still write poetry sometimes. Yeah. Yeah.
Oh,
I love
are you going to
writing
give us
poetry.
something today?
Maybe. We'll see where the conversation goes. I'll tell you what.
Uh-huh.
We'll see where the conversation goes. You guys can pick a word, any word, and I'll search my poetry section on my notes and I'll find the poem with that word in it and I'll read it at the end.
That's fantastic. That's a challenge. That's a challenge. I'm gonna go with the most hardest word, like onomatopoeia or something ridiculous.
Well, if it's there, then it's there. But yeah, that was I guess uni. There was like 2 phases, and complete transformation in the middle of it.
That's fantastic.
Did people notice that change? Like, okay, let me rephrase that. Did your family see that change in you?
So my family, I think, probably got so just for context, like my family is very conservative.
Okay.
So when I was sat in the like in the living room with a book, a Buddhist book, and my dad's sitting there and I'm reading this book talking about, and it's got like the chakras on the front page and like a guy meditating and stuff like that. My dad was scared. Like my dad was like, "Oh my God, like my son's finished, like he's gone off the path." But it's
what they scare all parents with when your son goes to university, you could lose him from back home. That's the talk that they give him, and it's like, oh my God, your dad's now witnessing this happening, possibly.
Yeah, so my dad was. Thing is though, what I'd do is I'd read stuff in this book and I'd like bring it up straight away in conversation. Like I'd read something and I'd just stop and I'd read it. I'd be like, Baba, like listen to this, and I'd read it out. I'd like translate it just so he understands it. And then it would like knock off a massive discussion, or starts off as a discussion and then maybe it turns into an argument, who knows. But you know, like just what I'd say is like a back and forth, right?
Okay.
Like a massive back and forth between me and my dad. He'd like give me the Islamic perspective, I'd like question it, and we'd have like a huge debate. Yeah. And sometimes they were heated debates, but like they were me and my dad just like trying to figure it out, like just trying to get to the bottom of it. And it wasn't always like sunshine and rainbows. Like there were times I'm the type, in Iraq they say chelib, you know, like I won't let it go until we've solved it. And I'd keep trying to get to the bottom of it. And
it's the engineering part of you.
I guess I just want to get to the bottom of it. And like he'd be like, look, let's just end it there. And I'm like, no, we need to keep going. So, but the thing is, like after like six months of that, I'll never forget. Like my dad, and this will always stay with me. He told me, "I'm proud of the way you think."
Inshallah.
And this is after like 6 months of us arguing. He told me like, "I'm proud of how you think." And I'm just like, we've been arguing for the past 6 months. Like, how did we get to that? But I realized like it was that resistance where I'd question things and I'd quit, like, and we'd have to like grapple with an idea and try and get to the bottom of an idea, is what just allowed him to see how I'm thinking. Like I gave him an insight into what's going on in my brain. And what I realized that by the end of that is that built his trust and confidence in me so much more. So even if he disagreed with what I was thinking, the fact that he had insight into where I was coming from made him trust me more and made him sort of understand me more. And as a result of that, like for my 3rd year of university, I remember after like all this time, I went back to my dad and I was like, I want to live out for my 3rd year. We live half an hour away from uni. There's no reason for me to live out.
Yeah.
I was like, I want to live out for the 3rd year. I was like, yeah, okay. If you want to do it, do it. I told him why. I'm like, I feel like it'll be good for my development, my independence. Like when you left Iraq when you were 21, what did it do for your own independence? What did it do for your own sort of personality and your ability to like take lead of a situation? I want to experience that. I want to live out. And because of those back and forths that we've had because of how much we'd spoken and like locked heads and like really got to like, you know, debated, because he had an insight into how I think. He trusts me. And he was like, cool, do what you need to do. And that for me was like eye-opening. I get loads of young people telling me, oh, how can I build trust with my parents? I'm like, let them know how you think. Like, just have a debate with them. Even if you disagree, say it. Have a debate, talk. Let them know that you're not irresponsible and you think about things and you question things, and let them know that you're critical in your thinking, and then they'll begin to trust you. That's why I sort of explain.
That's fantastic. I think that's great advice as well for any of our young listeners as well.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's great advice to anybody, to be honest. It doesn't have to be a young person. It's just people shy away saying that this is what I need to look like. I think we talked about that mask earlier. And, you know, sometimes having your own opinion is frowned upon within the community. It's a bit, we need to, you know,
stay in
our lane. I think it's following your words earlier, and it was just like, okay, no, I have an opinion, I have an idea, I am me, if that makes sense. And I think building that trust is so important. But yeah, that's fantastic.
The power of discussion.
Yeah, it's amazing because like I wouldn't just discuss these ideas with like my dad. I'd also discuss them with my friends. And that's when some of my friends started to drop like flies because they just weren't into what I was into. But others I built a closer connection with. So I remember, forget, like I was once sat in a cafe with some of my friends, and I was reading a book about like mindfulness, meditation, like proper deep like thoughts and ideas and how they're connected and how your breath is, you know, is like in charge of your brain, like just really, really sort of deep hippie stuff, yeah. And I went off on like a 45-minute just flow of like just stories and ideas and analogies and piecing together these thoughts. And I started somewhere and I kept building and building and building until I created this like mind map of ideas. And all of my mates were just sitting there like this. They were just like just staring at me just while I was talking. And when I realized like, okay, I've been talking for ages, like, and I just stopped. One of them goes, wow, like, you need to be a motivational speaker. Like, you just said everything like I've ever thought but could never articulate. And like, you said it in like, yeah, you need to be a motivational speaker. I was like, I'm an engineering student. What are you talking about? Like, I'm an engineering
This is
student.
at uni, right?
This is at uni, yeah. Like, I'm studying engineering. I'm about to go into my 3rd year. What do you mean I need to be a motivational speaker? Like, just relax. But then that happened, and then I realized, like, 2 weeks later, I'd be sat with a different friend. And again, like, I'd just start building these ideas and explaining these concepts. And they'd just be there going, like, wow, that's crazy. Like, I've never thought about that before. Just like, okay, this is like a common trend, like, and the same thing would come up. Like, that was really inspiring, like that was really motivating. It's like, okay, I don't know, you know, that's, I guess, but no intention of ever like pursuing that path. But I guess I made a note of it, like, okay, I guess I'm good at that. And it's crazy to think, like, now fast forward 5-6 years from that moment, like, you know, I get flown out to a place to go and give a talk for 25 minutes. That's insane. Do you know what I mean? Like, it's just insane that people are willing to put you on a plane and take you to a different country just so you can stand on stage and speak. And I still doesn't make sense to me. But like, okay, I trace it back to that.
Let's not jump forward. Let's go through the stages. So you finished uni and you went into
so Heathrow.
Okay.
Yeah, so I started working at Heathrow Airport
as
I got on their what they call the Future Leaders Graduate Program.
Okay.
It's basically their engineering graduate program, but they've given it a fancy title about future leaders. But it's basically like, okay, imagine like Heathrow Airport's and like an open buffet of engineering. Yeah.
Okay.
You have like the trains underground. You have like the lights on the runway. You have the control tower and all the systems in there. You have the baggage system. You have the water systems. You have all of these different systems that are.
It's a
like,
city within itself, isn't it?
Literally, it's an entire ecosystem. Everything you can imagine about engineering and some is all in one place. You have boilers for like the heating,
escalators,
you have lifts, you have trains, you have tracks, you have tunnels, you have civil, you have everything, everything you can imagine all in one place. And this graduate program was basically like, okay, you get to spend 6 months here, 6 months there, 6 months there. You can spend 6 months in all these different parts of the airport And when you're there, we'll give you a project, dig your teeth into it, try and get to the bottom of it in 6 months. And then you move on to the next place. So I literally spent like 3 years going from one place to another, just experiencing all these different types of engineering, and I loved it. So when I was in the baggage system, I like redesigned part of Terminal 2, but like the baggage system there, so we can make it more efficient and more effective. They even filmed it, put on ITV. That was pretty cool.
You were on the
Britain's busiest airport. Yeah, so they have an ITV show called Heathrow, Britain's busiest airport. They filmed like a little clip of us like implementing the change that I sort of designed in Terminal 2. And they put it on TV.
How proud were you?
Yeah, that was sick. I remember I was sitting there watching it, and like my family was in the room, and like it was all my cousins, everyone were in the room. They were like, "Wow!" Yeah. They were like screaming and shouting, and I was just there like, oh, "That's crazy." But like the reason why I did that is because I was like, "Why does no one talk about like engineering at an airport? Like we need to get more engineering at an airport." And then at the same time, I used to, from one department to another, kept moving around.
But so I'm just going to go back just a little bit. When did you start recording stuff for your social media? Because I think we've just jumped a little bit forward.
So about 6 months into joining the airport, my mind was blown. Like I was like going on these tours, seeing all the stuff, taking all these pictures. Like my mind was blown. Like this is crazy, and no one talks about this stuff. But there's so much that happens behind the scenes. And I remember I was talking to Hawra Milani, and she's like Facebook, Meta, or Google, like she's proper like, tech whiz. So I remember showing her pictures on my phone, and subhanAllah, like this is how like life is so crazy. Yeah. I was once on, like my mum gave me her phone to check something, and then for some reason it was on her Instagram page, and I saw a post from Hawra Milani saying, if you know anyone who wants to get into tech, let me know, send this to them, because I want to help some young people who want to get into tech. At that time, my cousin, Mohammed Rida, he really wanted to get into tech. So he really wanted to get into tech. And I was like, you know what? So I screenshotted that, sent it to myself, and then forwarded it to him. And I was like, look, speak to Hawra Milani. She's helping young people get into tech. I know you're studying like computer systems, etc. Get into tech. So he makes an appointment with her in my uncle's house. They go, they sit down, and I just stumble along. I'm like, you know what? I'll just come as well. So I just stumble along. That conversation, I'm showing her the stuff. She asked me, what do I do? I'm showing her all the pictures on my phone of like all the stuff that I do. And she goes to me, why don't you share this? I was like, who's going to care? She's like, no, like, you should document this. This is really, really good stuff. I was like, well, I guess. Like, I had the idea of putting stuff on social media before. Something not many people know is Motivate, the page, was set up like maybe 6 months before I turned it into an airport page. I used to put motivational quotes on there. So I used to come up with these little motivational quotes, and I used to put them on there. I put 3 posts and then it died. 3 posts and it died. And then I repurposed it and I turned it into, let me share my journey, like doing all this stuff on the airport. So I had like 2 goes at this. I was like, the first time it just fell flat on its face. The second time was the only one that was successful. So subhanAllah, by me like wanting to help out my cousin and get him connected to Hawra Milani, I stumbled into Hawra Milani, who then told me to start documenting it. That then resulted in all of this. And for me, that's a fundamental thing of like, when you help people, God helps you.
Absolutely true.
And like that, for me, like if I was to take my journey all the way back to the start, by me helping, like thinking, oh my God, like it was such a coincidence that I had my mum's phone, this post popped up, I shared it, and it all stumbled. But from then onwards, when I started documenting my journey, I realized like, okay, I'm seeing something, this is cool. I'd take a picture of it, I'd go home and I'd like write a caption. I realized it's taking a lot of time, like writing these captions, doing all this stuff. I didn't really have much time. So what I did is I sold my car so that I can take the train to work. And on the train, I can write and I can type. So I needed to carve out time in my day. So I decided selling my car was going to be a good financial decision. So all the money from there, my brother-in-law Rida helped me invest that in stocks and shares, and I set up an ISA and like a long-term sort of drip feed. So from a financial decision, I was saving money. And I was creating time. And that time I'd used to start documenting my journey. And I think not many people realize like that's what it took, like in the early stages. It's hard work. Yeah. And I started just drip feeding stuff onto the internet. Anything I'd see that I'd find interesting, any thought I'd have in my brain that was interesting, I just put it up on the internet, and I just started to type and write. Slowly that evolved into videos. I started making videos at the airport, putting that online, and then it exploded. One day I wake up and my followers overtook the number of followers that Heathrow Airport's official channels had. And that's when I was like,
I am the airport guy.
yeah. Do you want to know the story of how I became the airport guy?
Please.
So I was in a train station in London, and as I came out of the train station, I see a guy, and he sees me, and he's like, "Yo, he stops me. He's like, he was frazzled. He stopped me. He's like, "Oh my God, you're that guy. You're that guy. You're the airport guy." And at that point, I didn't know that name didn't exist, but it's because I had made so many videos about the airport.
Yeah.
He was like, "You're the airport guy." And I went home, and I remember I wrote on my page, "That airport guy." And then one of my friends messaged me like, no, you're not that airport guy. You're the airport guy. so yeah, and he's one of my friends called Milimo. He's an amazing soul. Like, he's helped me so much on this journey. He has his own agency and stuff. And he was like, "You're not that airport guy. You're the airport guy." I was like, "Are you sure, bro?" He goes, "Yeah, 100%. 100%. So I went back, I changed it to the airport guy, and then it just stuck. And yeah, the rest is history.
Amazing journey. Wow, very rich.
And you've had like ups and downs, and then I think, I've obviously, I've been following you for a long time, where we are related, and then I think it was a couple of years ago, your grandfather passed away, and then you had to go back or you went to Syria before, and then you went to Iraq for the funeral as well.
Yeah. So granddad passing away, I guess, was part of that journey. I was very lucky because Heathrow was very like flexible. They're like, "Look, my granddad was in Syria at the time. I need to go and see him." So I booked a flight, went to Syria, and my granddad was, I guess I didn't know who my granddad was because we lived so far away from Iraq, and things were so distant. But part of like, I guess, opening my eyes to that was going to actually visit him in Syria and watch his final. Well, you never know it's his final days, but you kind of tell, like, people live a whole life and then they get to the end, and the end is never as glamorous as the rest of their life, right? But I had the pleasure of being able to sort of give him care and attention and love throughout his last days. When I flew back to London, 12 days later he passed. So I literally got a chance to see him for that last bit of his life. As soon as he passed, booked the next flight straight to Iraq. When I got to Iraq, I was just scrolling through Instagram, and I see a video of like people putting up banners in the street with my granddad's face on it, saying like, "Ya Abal Yatama, like, you'll be missed, oh, like, father of the orphans." I'm like, what? Like, I knew my granddad would like lead Salah Jama'ah in the local area. I knew he'd go and do all these things, but like, they're putting up banners in the street with his face on it. That's my granddad. And then I'd go and I'd speak to the community that he used to look after, and these people are like, they're like, "This guy was our father. Like, he wasn't your granddad, he was our granddad, right? He looked after us." And like, and I realized that in that moment, like, wow, like, my granddad was a lot more than I thought he was, and it kind of filled me with regret. Like, I wish I lived more with him, because I would have been able to see what a great man he was. But yeah, he was
in a way, he was an influencer of his time, if that makes sense.
He was a huge influence and a leader of his time. Like, he wasn't just an influencer, but like a leader of a community that like relied on him like a backbone. And it's crazy because his dad was the same in his time, that his grandfather was the same in his time, and the grandfather after that was the same in his time. And I remember I used to ask my dad, I'm like, "Look, we come from like a lineage of leaders, and then we moved to the UK, and then what? We just kind of like just, like, we just think, yeah, it's fine." But like, I guess like as my life plays out, I'm realizing like, look, everyone had their own chance to be their own leader. I have my chance to be my own type of leader, and I'll pave my own path in that journey. I don't have to replicate the same way that they did, but I'll have a different problem to solve.
So how was the funeral?
The funeral was insane. Like, the funeral was
this your first real experience of being back at Iraq? I think you were by yourself, more or less.
Yeah, I was by myself, and like, I was just immersed in the
community.
Yeah, and like, usually when you go to Iraq, you're like in a bubble of like your family,
yeah,
Khala's house, like, you're just there. Like, it's not really, you're not immersed in it all. But like, this time I went on my own. Like, my family came afterwards. One of my sisters was there, but like, it was just me and my sister. We went. So I was just out with the guys from the community all the time, and like I was seeing how much effort they get. These like young men from the community, from his community, were putting in. Like they would like put their job to one side, and they were spending days and nights preparing for his funeral, preparing all the last details, printing out like stickers and little badges and cards and like putting up all the black on the mosque for the Fatiha, and like they were putting in all this effort. And then the day of the funeral comes, and I see like the whole community, like thousands
Wow.
of people, like
Mashallah.
fill the streets. I think there was 20 or 30 buses full of people that went from Baghdad to Karbala to Najaf
Wow.
to like go with the body on that ziyarah, to like on his final, like 20, 30 buses, and all the buses had pictures and they were numbered so people knew where to go. Like it was orchestrated. It was like a full orchestrated thing. And I'm thinking,
A full operation.
yeah, and this is my granddad that like was just like, oh yeah, Jiddu's going to the mosque. He'll come back after Salah. That's all we saw. Yeah, Jiddu's going to the mosque. He has someone come picks him up. He goes to the mosque. He comes back 3-4 hours later, and that's all we saw. While we're at home, I'd go with him to the mosque sometimes. I'd see him there, and even when I'm there, like you get glimpses of like what kind of person he is, because like grown men would come in the street, they'd stop and they'd kiss his hand. I'm just like, oh, okay. Kids would run in the street, be like, Salam Sayyid, Salam Sayyid. And you realize like he was there for that community for whatever they needed. And as a reciprocal of that is that they adored him, they loved him. And that was very eye opening, seeing like after his death, like seeing everything that happened. It was very, very eye opening, and it showed me, I guess, what leadership does. Like when you're selfless and you care for people. And we saw the same thing with Sayyid Fadl.
Yeah.
Like in the UK here, Sayyid Fadl Milani, when he passed away, you saw the reaction of the community and how many people came out. It's because he spent his whole life in service. He put himself second, and he put the community first. That's a very difficult thing to do. And like I'm realizing how difficult that is to do, because you try and it's hard, but you just gotta keep trying.
There was one picture that I saw that you put up with where your granddad got buried.
Yeah, that was the way that story unfolded was, so we went from Baghdad to Karbala to Najaf, and then when we got to Najaf, they had like the grave pre-prepared. So as the pickup truck was pulling up, it was middle of the night. Those 2 weeks I spent with my granddad in Syria, like before he passed, I built a very, very deep connection with him. Like, before they buried him, like before they brought him off the truck, I jumped off the truck and I ran to the guy who had dug the grave, and I said, "Look, I want to go inside."
What made you want to go inside the grave?
I'd never experienced being inside a grave before,
And
and I really wanted to know what it felt like.
how did it feel like?
So when I told the guy I want to do that, he's like, "Who are you?" First and foremost, because you never know, like, why is somebody going inside the grave? I think there's some dodgy business that some people would attend. I was like, "Look, I'm his grandson." He was like, "Toddler, go after you, whatever you want. Take off your shoes and get inside." So I took off my shoes, took off my socks, and as soon as I took off my socks, like, and it was nighttime at this point, and like my feet touched the sand, like I could feel the sand, sort of the cold, cool sort of, particles of sand like through my toes, and I'm like, okay, wow, this is colder than I thought. He holds my hand and he lowers me into the grave, and as he lowers me into the grave, it starts getting darker and darker and darker as you get to the bottom. And then when you get to the bottom, one thing I didn't know about a grave is that you have like the grave, and then there's like a little extension part that extends out. They call it the lihad, which is like the little bit to the side. Because what happens is they put the person in there, and I believe they turn them on their side. And then what they do is they build a brick wall to seal you in. So they'll turn you onto one side, and then they'll put bricks behind you to like cover your back, to like stop you from falling back out. And this grave was actually right next to my grandmother's grave, so my granddad's wife, right next to her grave, and her lihad, so the thing that was stopped, like the end of her grave, was right there. So when I went in there, I got to a point where once I got to the bottom of the grave and I lied down, I heard the guy from the top saying, "Go inside the lihad. Don't just sit in the bit where there's light. Go in." So I went in, and in that moment, I've never felt peace like I felt in that moment. And I was inside a grave. And I remember I put my hand on the lihad from this side, and I could feel this like energy just pulling me in this way. But the only thing that was stopping me from going closer and closer into that peace was the light coming in from the side of the grave from the left. And for a split second, I wished that light could go away so that I can like just dissolve into the grave, because it felt so peaceful down there. And it made me realize, like, when you spend your life in service, you don't have a grave waiting for you. You have a paradise that awaits. And that, just being in that grave for 30 seconds, made me realize, like, all that hard work that he'd put in meant that he was about to get put into a paradise. And I could feel the peace in my heart when I was laying there about what was to come, like, for him. It just felt so peaceful. And I wanted them to seal up the grave. Like, while I was there, I just wanted to dissolve into that darkness. I had the darkness on this side of the grave, of the lehed, and I had the light from this side. And the light was the only thing anchoring me away from the darkness. And I just wanted that light to go away so I can fade away. And that I'll never forget. Like, that moment, I'll never forget.
Mohammed,
Wow.
I've got goosebumps. I do, and I've got like this heaviness in my chest.
The back of my hairs are sort of standing up a bit, but no, that's what an emotion. It feels energetic. I don't know how to describe this feeling at the moment, but I feel energized. As in, you know what, serving your community means something.
Yeah. If once you feel it, it's different as well.
Yeah.
Like, you know.
So that was a moment. And then obviously you went through and you came back to the UK, you continued your journey through Heathrow, and then you went on a fantastic opportunity with Virgin Airlines.
Yeah. I love how we're flipping like Akhirah and then dunya back and forth. Yeah. So all of that happened. Like, I remember, like, I thought my page went from like being aviation to just being it really had the impact on me. Like, it had a very, very deep impact on me. So I would reflect all these things that I'd learned, and like the story of my grandfather and stuff like that. But, you know, after a while, things sort of change. You know, it's crazy how if you scroll through the feed, like, you see these chapters of life, like these little seasons, as I'd call them. The next season that opened up was Virgin Atlantic knocked on my door, metaphorically, like, I threw an email saying, look, we have a flight with Richard Branson to New York using 100% sustainable aviation fuels. So for the first time ever, we're using sustainable fuel, which is basically like chip pan fuel. Like, imagine like oil that comes out of a chip pan fryer. They turn that into fuels, they put it in an engine, and they fly a plane across the Atlantic Ocean. It'd never been done before. So this flight had Richard Branson, had all his executive team on there. You had like the CEO of Heathrow Airport, senior leadership from Boeing, people from senior leadership from BP who made the fuels. All these people were on this flight, and they were like to me, Mo, we want you to be on there as well. I'm like,
and government officials as well.
Yeah, government officials. So the Secretary of State was on there, Transport Secretary, all these crazy people were on there. And I was like, sure, yeah, I'll come. I'll come. And they were like, yeah, we'll pay you to be there as well. I'm like,
even better.
Say no more. Yeah, I'll take off a day of annual leave. So literally, I took off a day of annual leave, and I ended up going on this flight with Richard Branson. It was like an amazing experience. It's something I never thought I'd ever experience, but like, it was literally a tube full of the most influential people in the aviation industry, and we all stuck together for 7 hours. So I was like, ding, 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 ding. I was like a ping pong ball, just like networking with everyone. I had my cards ready. I was giving out cards. And I was just getting to know everybody, including Richard and the rest of his team.
Oh, is it Richard? Go by first name.
Richie is.
Richie.
Richie Rich. But yeah, so we got to know everyone, and it was a great experience. We got to spend the day in New York in their sort of Virgin Hotel, watching sort of like literally right in front of the Empire State Building. Amazing. And I was just like thinking to myself,
that's the Virgin Hotel, wasn't it? Yeah.
And you just kind of think to yourself, like, how did I end up here? Like, how did life get me here? And
your hard work.
Yeah, but still, man, lots of people work hard, you know.
I mean, think of it like this. We've just spoken about your granddad, and you were genuine. You shared that on your story. You know, some people try and hide away their private life from their social life or from their media and everything. But you're a genuine guy, and I think it really does show. That's why these opportunities, you know, inshallah, will always open up to you.
I hope so, and especially with the recent times, I think that's even more like important. Like with what's going on in the world, like, you have a choice. I don't think there is a choice to make in terms of being silent or not being silent. I think kind of have a responsibility to speak about it, because one day we'll look back on these times and say, what did we do? But it's the least we can do, right?
Yeah.
It's just to be true to ourselves.
Absolutely. Oh, well, that fits in very well with our last guest. She left you with a question.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know who our last guest.
Okay.
Do you remember the question?
I don't actually.
Oh, well, she said, if you weren't here,
Okay.
where would you be?
If I wasn't like here in the studio right now.
No, if you weren't where you are.
Okay.
If you weren't where you are in your life right now.
No, yeah. Where would you be?
I have no idea. You know what? My brother-in-law, he's the one who got me into like aviation and aerospace and all that sort of stuff. So he introduced me to all. He used to always laugh at me. He's like, yeah, if I didn't help you out, you'd be a massage therapist right now, giving out massage. It's like, but that's like a throwaway joke that he'd say. Honestly, I don't know.
Did you have any other passions or anything else that you might?
I just like, I mean, I initially wanted to be a lawyer.
Okay.
I'd done a week of work experience in a law firm and wrote that off as an entire career. Like, I was like, there's no way I'm being a lawyer. But yeah, I'm just lucky to have like I really liked planes, and like I just kept that as a North Star, and I just kept working towards that. That's literally it. I was like, okay, I really like planes. Let's forget everything else and let's just keep that as a North Star. I'm good at problem solving. I like engineering. I like maths. Let's put that in the journey. But like now I don't do engineering. I don't do the maths and stuff anymore. But just keep that North Star. Okay, I like this. And as time goes on, you learn more and more about yourself and you pivot. So what I've realized is like you only ever take one step and then you pivot, and the next step might be in a very different pivot direction, right? So you go, okay, one step here. Okay, nice. But is the next step straight forward? Maybe not. No. So I'm going to go a little bit this way. Okay, now that I'm here, actually, you know what? Maybe I should go that way. And you go back that way. And actually, and then you're this way. And then you go back this way. And then you're this way. And then you're this way. And you just keep pivoting. And like, just take one step at a time, reassess, pivot, reassess, pivot, reassess, pivot. That's just what I'm doing.
And I think there's something that is very unique about you. You do a lot for the aviation industry, where you're trying to get the youth back into aviation or even engineering. You're looking for minorities. You're doing a lot with that. And then there's also the women's side, where you're trying to help women into aviation as well, and engineering. So you promote that, you push that out there. So you're also sort of slightly following your grandfather's footsteps, or following in you, not slightly, but following your grandfather's footsteps, is helping communities and helping the industry grow and helping minorities like ourselves to get opportunities where we don't see them. You know, it's like you're giving us our unfair advantage, if that makes sense. You know, going by Hassan's book.
Yeah.
You know, throw it in there. Why not? Because you know he is. I think you've worked with Hassan as well, haven't you?
Yeah. Hassan was my coach once, and now we're very close friends. Yeah, so yeah, I think definitely like ultimately though, if you were to ask why do I do that, is because I guess I wish I had somebody who could help me out. When I was just like a 16-year-old kid who likes planes, I was lucky enough to have my brother-in-law. But I know there's lots of people in this world who don't have someone like my brother-in-law who could help them out, right? He managed to get me a day of work experience where I got a chance to experience it, and then the rest was history. But there's so many kids out there that don't have that connection. They don't have that person. But what they do have, they have Instagram and they have TikTok. So why can't I be that person through TikTok and through Instagram and scale the impact that we can do? And, you know, alhamdulillah, by doing all of that, like the UK government's picked up on the work that I do. They asked me if I want to become an ambassador for aviation for the government. So I do that as well on the side now, where I'm an ambassador for the UK government for aviation, as well as all the other stuff that I do. So I guess I'm very lucky in that the right people saw what I do at the right time, and I got the right opportunities that allowed my passion to flow. And I'm very conscious that that passion lives in a lot of people, but they didn't get the opportunities that I got. And I'll always be grateful that I got those opportunities. And I'm just trying to squeeze and make the very most of those opportunities, because I know that, you know, I've been given them for a reason. I have to make the most out of them. And hopefully that can inspire other people to make the most out of their opportunities in the same way. Like you said, the unfair advantage. But how can you let everybody understand what that is for them, and let them action that? And hopefully I can be a source of inspiration for at least one person to say, you know what, if he could do it, then why can't I?
That's really lovely.
So,
honestly, well done.
So we always ask our person that joins us to ask the next question
For our next guest.
You don't know who that is. So what type of question would you like to leave?
Why? Why did you do that? And you can put that in whatever context that you want. So in the next session, just ask them why. Like, so when you're saying you did this, I want you to ask them not just why once, but I want you to ask them why 3 times. Yeah, I was gonna say 5, but just for time's sake, ask them why. Like, keep getting deeper and deeper into that why. Try that.
Well, too.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a challenge.
There you go.
We'll take that challenge. But
Okay.
Mohammed, first of all, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. I really do appreciate it.
If you're watching this and you want the poetry, I'm sorry, you ran out of time.
Well, you know what?
No.
You can send it to us.
No, you know what? Can you do poetry in 2 minutes?
I could do poetry. Okay, give me a word.
I was going to say nafs or the soul.
Soul. I could do
Yeah.
soul.
That's a challenge there.
Mm-hmm.
Going on the theme of the podcast.
A good one.
Yeah.
I like that. Well done.
Yeah. I think following on from the podcast, giving Mohammed time to search,
Yeah.
it gives people that image of what a nafs is, because
Absolutely.
it could be the person or
The
it could be the self.
Cool. I'll go on.
Let's
And
go.
this podcast is on theme. It's called Lead.
Lead.
The direction you go is a personal choice, and the actions you take speak louder than your voice. Remember, people trust eyes more than ears, and that trust compounds over the years. If you're consistent with the truth you seek, you'll empower the masses from strong to weak. The footsteps you leave behind become the path in which you are followed from. Becoming a leader isn't a choice you make. The only choice is the direction you take. Only then, if you're trusted to guide the way, you'll be a beacon of hope that shines its ray. Like the North Star beaming in the darkest night, you'll uplift souls and make clear what's right. Because to be a leader, you must inspire action, whether it's in the whole of humanity or just a fraction. I know some will find this a hard pill to swallow. You'll never be a leader until they choose to follow.
As we say in Iraqi, عشتيدك.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you. I look forward to seeing the rest of the journey.
Thank you.
Thank you.
you.